Are you a family caregiver caring for a loved one in your home? Are you exhausted, worn out, and at the end of your rope? Do you feel like giving up? If you desperately need answers and direction on how to take care of your loved one, you need Caregiving Tips A to Z. This highly informative book by Starr Calo-oy has been written in a down-to-earth manner rather than in technical language. How does she know what you need to know? Because Starr and her husband Bob took care of the elderly in their home for 18 years, 24/7, 365 days a year. They've been through the sleepless nights, behavioral problems people with dementia have, and trying to get the elderly to eat. They have been through it all, and now they want to share the hands-on tips they've discovered over the years with you. Call Starr now for your copy of Caregiving Tips A to Z and start living again. Call 521-8668. That's 521-8668 and talk to Starr. Remember, you're not alone anymore. Call 521-8668. That's 521-8668.
And your loved one for the worst. And here to tell us how is Starr Calo-oy. She is back with Caregiving 101. Good morning, Starr, and good morning.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning. You know, it's so true. You and your caregiver, you know, really do have to prepare for the worst.
This is so true. And, you know, I have a little story that I'd like to tell. And this is a true story. As you know, Bob and I took care of the terminally ill and Alzheimer patients in our own home for over 20 years, 25 years, he says. But anyway, what happened was a man by the name of Richard came to see us. He brought his mother to us and told us how he came to take care of her. He was her caregiver at that moment. What happened was he had been traveling around all over Canada, and his dad did not tell him that his mother had Alzheimer's now. And he was the only child. His dad had locked all the doors, gotten burglar bars, had the only key in his pocket to be able to get out of the house because his wife would wander and get lost. So he didn't know what to do. But he protected her reputation. She was very well known, and she had just a stellar reputation, a marvelous professor here in San Antonio, and for many, many years. And so he wanted to protect her reputation. So he didn't tell anyone at all. All he did was, but he did program the speed dial, which I'll talk about in a minute. Well, what happened was one day he fell dead in the house, right on the dining room table. And because she had Alzheimer's and she didn't know how to communicate anymore, she thought he was asleep, evidently, because she tried to pull his body up the stairs to get upstairs, but to put him to bed, but she wasn't able to do that. You know, he was too heavy. So she just stepped over his body and went to sleep. The next morning she came down. This is everything that was surmised, you know, by the fire department. But she came down and she didn't know how to operate the phone, so she just started punching it. And so after she did that, finally someone, a next door neighbor, and she said, "Daddy's asleep. He won't wake up. Daddy's asleep." So they called the fire department, broke in, got her out, finally located their only living relative, which was her son.
Their son.
And the father, because he had protected, the son comes back, daddy's dead, and mother has Alzheimer's. It was devastating. Caregiver illness and death has to be prepared for so that you don't put your family through devastation.
Everybody should know about it.
Yes.
Everybody should know about
right.
that. And so you have some tips as far as folks at home who say, well, I'm a caregiver, so okay, I'm listening, Starr. I need to know how I need to prepare myself.
Okay, number one, you want a care notebook. Now that notebook can be loose leaf, or loose leaf is really better because you can add and subtract from it. But what you're going to want is a full list of doctors, your loved one's doctors, insurance policies, where to locate them, because you're not going to have them in there unless you have pockets, real big pockets. But where to get a hold of everything. All the important emergency numbers. You're going to want alternate caregivers information in there. You're going to want to have a list of their daily routine. What do they do? What are their sleep habits? What are their eating habits? Because in many cases, your loved one isn't going to be able to communicate this.
Yes.
So that's very important. All the vital information that you would need to give someone a baby, a sitter, for example, if you had to take off, so that if you're ill. And, it's so important, Eileen, that we make sure that if we get sick or get the flu or a cold, it may just be a cold to us, but it can be a death sentence for our loved one if we don't isolate ourselves from them, because their resistance is down, see?
Right.
And talking about resistance and immune system, that's one of the biggest discoveries over this last year with caregivers, and the researchers found that the caregiver's immune system goes way down if they don't get their rest and proper nutrition and exercise, and it causes them to get ill and have strokes and heart attacks.
Wow.
And that's happening more and more.
Which is why you say premature
That's
death. I mean, it could happen. And so you also mentioned something about having enlisting maybe other caregivers.
Oh, definitely.
Having like a backup list.
You have to have it. You need to have a backup list of your own family, so that if it's an emergency, that someone can come over and they're on call, and that way, that's why that notebook's so important, to have it in a place where you can put your fingers on it at a moment's notice. If you don't have a family member or friend, maybe someone from the support group, another family, would be willing to trade off with you if your loved one is sick, because they're going to need it too down the line. Also, a cell phone is very important. If you don't have one, get a cell phone, program it to all of the important list. That way, if you have a heart attack or a stroke and you're trying to communicate, you've got 911 on there. You can speed dial it. You also can give that cell phone to whoever is going to be taking over for you, and they've got all the numbers right there.
Yeah, just be ready. I mean, not only have a list of phone numbers, but also have those phone numbers in your cell phone.
That's right.
Okay. And you also have some books, of course.
Oh, yes.
Which could help
tips.
many of us, which could help so many of us as far as caregiving.
Yes.
And so these are some caregiving tips books from A to Z, which is what I like.
And 1,200 tips in each book.
1,200 tips.
1,200 in each one.
All right. Well, of course, if you missed it here, you can always tune in to KKYX. Caregiving 101 with Starr and Bob Calo-oy. That's KKYX 680 AM. They'll be talking about Caregiving 101 from 9 to 10 AM. And then the next hour, Marriage 101.
Right. Marriage tips.
Yes, marriage tips from 10 to 11. Have you written books on that just yet?
We're writing a book right now on marriage.
Oh, you are? So we
teach classes.
Okay, so we're going to be adding to this library right here.
Exactly.